in this valley for about 90 years, and I'm associated with the LA County Farm Bureau, not only as president, but I'm on the water committee. I plan only talking maybe 10 or 15, or 10 or 12 minutes, so if you have any questions that can't wait, well, please just raise your hand and interject if that's okay with me. A groundwater adjudication, to review this, is a court process which determines people's rights to pump water out of the ground, and then also how to manage the basin in the future. I know at some of our earlier meetings there was some question about whether you're in adjudication or not, and I brought two more detailed maps if you're interested. I know Leona Valley is not in adjudication. When you talk to these litigators that are involved in this thing, I think they're eagerly looking at Leona Valley in the future after this adjudication is over. What makes this adjudication unique from all the other 20 adjudications in the history of the state is that every single solitary landowner, whether you own 1,000 acres or 1 square foot, are going to be subject to the judgment of the court. And that's primarily because of Edwards Air Force Base wants a comprehensive adjudication, and they don't want to come back every few years and fight this over again. The other unique thing is in part of the management of the basin, they talk about a physical solution, and that's kind of how to manage the basin. And the other thing that's completely different about this adjudication is that groundwater storage is part of the physical solution. This has never happened in adjudication before. The water districts that are involved in this, I'm not talking about the mutual, but I'm talking about the water districts and the cities. They want to control all the storage in the valley. And we feel that it's your land and that you should participate in this in some equitable manner. So anyway, we're having a tug of war as to who's going to control it, and I think that we could have some joint program, but it's a hassle dealing with that. I was on the adjudication technical committee, attend the settlement conferences, and attend the court hearings. Some of these activities are subject to confidentiality restraints, but everything I tell you tonight is public knowledge. However, you're probably aware that all of these processes have been seriously flawed. You've probably heard that around the community. I'll get into this later. I feel we really urgently need to diminish the role of lawyers in this process and other paid consultants and reach a settlement of this adjudication as soon as we can. You can see that AB Press thing we passed out is on the very last paragraph on the right-hand side. You know, I was mentioning some of our concerns. I want to introduce Laura Blank, the Executive Director of LA County Farm Bureau, who's prepared these slides and handouts for me today, and she's going to be involved in this a little bit later. The possible effects of this adjudication could be huge, just huge. There are some public water suppliers out there, proposals that are out there, that are proposing to cut landowners like myself and yourself down 50 to 100%. 100% means no water. I hope you'll find this presentation interesting, informative, and motivate you to do something to protect your rights. I talked to this association in 2005, 2006, 2007, and it's now just into 2008. This is the 4th year. What is different now is that I and others that are closely involved in this process feel that to reach a settlement, we have to cut out the dishonesty and manipulation. And of course, when you're dealing with a bunch of water lawyers, it's kind of hard to do that. Many feel that the public agencies, and I will introduce what I call the public water suppliers later, they've really broken the bond of trust with the public, even their own citizens and ratepayers. Lawyers have taken control, I can assure you. What is the same is that I don't think you folks have done much, and the Association of Rural Town Councils has not done much. And I would really like to encourage you to get more involved and find out what's going on, because these public agencies are trying to take some of your most important property rights without you even knowing about it. And I think Wayne made a good introductory comment. This is extremely, extremely important thing. As an example, 2 phases of the trial have already been over. And I don't think you folks have any idea of what happened or what it is. You know, there is this concept out there called due process. And to a lot of us, it just feels like that's just being completely ignored. And I guess one of the questions I'd like to ask you folks is, what are you going to do to protect your rights, and what are you going to do it? It's kind of a blunt statement like that. The above parties have joined a group called the Public Water Suppliers. And they're essentially going to sue the owners of all the parcels in Antelop Valley, which is about 190,000 parcels. And yes, this is a lawsuit called complex litigation that is going to involve 190,000 people. And of course, the technical issues are so complex, the judge has already said this will be a negotiated settlement and not a judicial one, because you know some of these concepts are over his head. When they formed this, it fractionated the community into landowners versus public water suppliers. And a better approach would have been for the community as a whole to unite to ward off people that are outside of the valley that want to take control of the water resources. And that other comment in that AV Press article that is highlighted at the top is an example of that. Because of the limited time available, I'm not going to read all the slides, and Laura's prepared some handouts that you can take home with you and read more details later. I view the adjudication as consisting of 4 parts: the court, the settlement process, the technical committee, and the political situation. The public water suppliers, as I mentioned earlier, have allowed 2 phases of the trial to go past without the landowners, or most of the landowners, even knowing what was going on. They want the trial to be in Los Angeles, which essentially excludes most of you people from watching and participating. They've withheld important information from the press, and they're vigorously opposing a jury trial for Phase 3. Phase 3 will determine if we can't negotiate a solution. It will determine safe yield and whether there's any overdraft or not. And these public water suppliers are fighting tooth and nail to not have a jury trial, and we don't think that's appropriate. We just finished Phase 2 of the litigation, and what was really interesting, I sat through 7.5 butt-numbing days watching this thing, and it didn't turn out that I think anybody, including the judge, did not know what was litigated. In other words, what they were fighting over until the very last day. And the lawyers were suspicious of one another, playing gamesmanship and everything. But the thing was, is, you know, there was probably $10 million spent on this thing, and nobody really knew what they were fighting about. That's why we don't want to get into Phase 3 of this trial, because it's going to be even more horrible. The settlement process, we've had several settlement processes, and they've all failed miserably. And the main reason for that is the public water suppliers have come to the landowners with a proposition that we would have to refuse. It would bankrupt the farmers, make the mutual water companies change their entire lifestyle. It would hurt the single-family resident pumpers, probably raise your cost of pumping out of the ground maybe tenfold. It would really adversely affect industry in the valley that's pumping out of the ground, and it's just incredible. Now Norm Hickley in Antonovich's office, through our urging, has started some new settlement conferences, and I think that we're starting to make a little headway. We've had 2 of them. I was on the technical committee, and it came out with a technical report, which you've probably heard, that's been widely discredited. The technical committee is dominated and controlled by public water supplier representatives. They have cooked the books to say that the native recharge, which belongs to the landowners, is artificially low. During this process, I made comments and objections and sent an email. But if you don't support their objective, they have not paid any attention to it. I don't think public agencies should support this kind of a process. And that's why a lot of us feel that the bond of trust with the public has been severely ruptured in this case. In terms of the political thing, we're going around talking